I came home after surgery and found my clothes in a box. In the backyard, my daughter-in-law said without looking at me, "I thought you weren't coming back." So I cleaned out your closet. I smiled calmly and replied, "Good, because now I'm the one who's going to do the cleaning, and I'm starting with you." And in that moment, the color drained from her face. When I opened my eyes that morning in the hospital, I felt a weight on my chest that wasn't just from the surgery. It was something deeper, something that had been growing inside me for months, like a silent shadow. But I didn't know it yet. I still believed I was returning to my home. I was wrong. The cab pulled up in front of the house I built with my own hands. That sand-colored house with the green front gate that I painted myself 5 years ago. I paid $35 for that ride from the hospital. Every dollar hurt, not because of the money, but because no one came for me. Not my son, not her. I walked slowly toward the entrance. The wound in my abdomen was still burning. 12 days, hospitalized after my gallbladder decided to rebel against me. $15,000 of my own savings to save my life. And not a single visit. Well, that's not entirely true. Carol, my lifelong neighbor, she came 3 times. She brought me chicken soup in a thermos and held my hand when the nurses would ask, "And your family, ma'am?" I would lie. I always lied. "They're busy," I'd say with a smile that was tearing me apart on the inside. I pushed open the front door. The house was silent, a strange silence, as if something had been ripped out by the roots. It smelled different, like expensive perfume and a lavender air freshener. It didn't smell like my morning coffee. It didn't smell like home. I dragged my small suitcase down the hallway. Every step was an effort. Every breath reminded me that I was still alive, although a part of me wished I felt nothing at all. I reached my bedroom, or what used to be my bedroom. The door was wide open, and inside, nothing. Absolutely nothing. My bed was gone. The wooden dresser I bought at a flea market upstate 20 years ago was gone too. The photographs of my husband, of Michael as a little boy, of my mother, everything had disappeared. My legs started to shake. I clung to the doorframe. I felt the air escaping from my lungs. I walked faster than my body would allow. I crossed the living room, passing new furniture I didn't recognize until I reached the backyard. And there it was. My entire life, piled up in cardboard boxes soaked by the morning dew. My clothes. My shoes. The blankets I had knitted by hand. The books I read on lonely nights. My mother's rosary. Everything thrown out like trash someone forgot to take to the curb. I stood there, frozen. I couldn't process what I was seeing. I couldn't understand how anyone could do this. And then I heard her voice. "Oh, Eleanor, you're back." I turned around slowly. Chloe was standing in the threshold of the back door, putting on makeup in front of a hand mirror. My mirror. The one Arthur gave me for our 10th anniversary. She didn't look at me. Didn't even glance up. "I thought you weren't coming back, so I cleaned out your closet. We needed the space for my beauty studio. So I can work from home." Her tone was so casual, so cold, as if she were commenting on the weather. Something inside of me broke, but not in the way she expected. I didn't cry, I didn't scream, I didn't beg. Instead, I felt something new. Something I hadn't felt in years. Clarity. I stared at her. Her eyes were still on the mirror, applying mascara with surgical precision. She was wearing a pale pink silk robe. Her nails were perfectly manicured, her hair pulled back in an elegant bun. And there I was, fresh out of the hospital, with wrinkled clothes, unwashed hair, a fresh scar under my blouse. I smiled. It was a strange, calm, almost dangerous smile. Good, because now I'm the one who's going to do the cleaning, and I'm starting with you. Chloe stopped applying her makeup. For the first time in a long time, she looked at me, really looked at me, and in her eyes, I saw something that gave me strength. Fear. The color drained from her face. Her face went pale as if she had seen a ghost. She opened her mouth to say something, but nothing came out. I kept smiling. I walked toward the boxes, bent down carefully so as not to hurt my wound, and picked one up. I carried it inside without another word. She just stood there, frozen, her mascara wand halfway to her eye. And I knew, in that exact moment, that something had just changed. That I was no longer the same woman who had left this house 12 days ago. That woman died in the hospital. The one who came back was someone else. Someone who was no longer afraid to clean up what needed to be cleaned. Because if there's one thing I've learned in my 67 years, it's this. Silence isn't peace, it's cowardice disguised as patience, and I was all out of patience. But what she didn't know, what no one in that house knew yet, was that I wasn't going to act out of rage. I was going to act with intelligence. Because rage is a fire that burns out quickly, but determination is an ember that glows for days, and I was just starting to warm up. If this story has already grabbed you and you want to know how it all ended, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any details of what happened next. Because what's coming, nobody saw coming. Not even me. That night I couldn't sleep. I sat on the living room sofa, surrounded by my boxes, looking at the walls of this house. And every crack, every stain, every corner told me a story. My story. This house didn't just appear out of nowhere. It wasn't a gift. I didn't inherit it. I tore it from the world with my own 2 hands, with a broken back and bleeding knees. Let me take you back in time. To the place where it all began. I was 42 when Arthur died. A massive heart attack while he was driving his cab. There was no time for goodbyes, no last conversation. Just a police officer at my door at 3 a.m, and a world that collapsed in seconds. Michael was 12. A boy who still wet the bed when he had nightmares. A boy who asked me every night, "Mom, is Dad coming back?" And I, with my heart in pieces, would lie. "Yes, honey. Your dad will always be with us." But the truth was, we were alone. Completely alone. The cab was a rental. Arthur's insurance covered nothing because he had forgotten to pay the last 3 premiums. We were left with $2,000, 2 suitcases of clothes, and a rented room in a run-down part of the city that smelled of dampness and broken dreams. The landlord gave us 2 weeks to get out. He said he needed the room for someone who could actually pay on time. As if my husband's death was an inconvenience for him. I remember that night perfectly. Michael was sleeping on the floor on a thin mattress. I was sitting by the window watching the city lights, wondering how we were going to survive. I could have given up. I could have gone back to live with my sister in her small town and lived off her charity for the rest of my life, she offered. "Come on over, Eleanor. There's room here." But I knew what that meant. It meant being the poor sister, the widow with no future, the one who cleans and cooks in exchange for a roof over her head, the one who lowers her head and says thank you for the handouts. No, that wasn't for me, and especially not for my son. So I made a decision that changed me forever. The next day, I went out looking for a job, any job. I knocked on doors, left my name on crumpled pieces of paper, walked until my feet bled. Nothing. Everyone wanted someone younger or with experience. Until I found a notice on a telephone pole. Cleaning staff wanted. Night shift. Downtown office building. I went that same afternoon. The manager looked me up and down. He was a heavy-set man with a coffee-stained shirt. He asked me 3 questions. "Can you work from 11 at night to 6 in the morning? Do you have a problem with cleaning bathrooms? Do you need breaks?" I answered. Yes, no, and no. He hired me on the spot. The salary was $2,000 a month, a pittance. But it was a start. For 15 years I worked there, 15 years cleaning floors that no one saw. Sweeping empty offices while the rest of the city slept. Mopping bathrooms where important executives left their mess without a second thought. Michael stayed home alone at night. I would leave him prepared food, set alarms for him to do his homework. I called him every 2 hours from the payphone in the building. He never complained. Well, not at first, but I needed more money. So on weekends, I started selling tamales. I would get up at 4 in the morning on Saturdays and Sundays. I'd prepare 100 tamales, chicken, pork, cheese. I sold them at a stall at the weekend farmers market, $5 each. $1,000 a weekend if I was lucky. Sometimes more, sometimes less. Michael helped me. He would wrap the tamales in the husks, arrange them on the trays. He never told me he was tired. He never told me his schoolmates made fun of him because he smelled like food. I saved every dollar, every coin. I put them in a cookie tin hidden under my bed. I didn't spend on anything that wasn't absolutely necessary. Second-hand clothes, repaired shoes, simple food. And so, little by little, penny by penny, something began to grow inside that tin. Hope. After 7 years, I had $18,000 saved. It wasn't much, but it was mine. I found this plot of land on the outskirts of town. It was small, irregular, on an unpaved street. Nobody wanted it. It cost $22,000. I told the owner, I only had $18,000. He looked at me with pity and accepted. I signed the deed with trembling hands. That land was mine. Mine. I hired a local contractor, Mr. Henderson, an older man who worked with his son. I paid them little by little as I could. They built the walls. I carried the cement bags. Michael, 15 years old by then, helped mix the sand. It took us 4 years to finish it. 4 years of sacrifice. Of not eating meat, of not buying new shoes, of not going to the movies even once. But when we put in the last window, when we painted the last wall, when I planted the first tree in the backyard, I cried. I cried like I hadn't cried since Arthur died. Because that house wasn't just bricks and mortar. It was my dignity. It was my promise to Michael that we were going to be okay. It was proof that a single woman, with no education, with no help, could build something that no one could take away from her. Or so I thought. The house has 3 bedrooms. A backyard where I planted a lemon tree and a peach tree. A small but light-filled living room. A kitchen where I prepared thousands of meals for my son. Today, it's worth about $300,000, according to the last appraisal I did a year ago. But to me, it's priceless. Because every brick in these walls holds my sweat. Every window reflects my sleepless nights. Every corner holds the echo of my tired footsteps returning from work. And now, after everything it cost me, after everything I sacrificed, someone wanted to snatch it away. But that night, sitting among my boxes in the living room, surrounded by the wreckage of my life, I made another promise. This house was mine, and nobody, absolutely nobody, was going to take it from me, even if I had to remind them, in the most painful way possible, who the real owner was here. Because what Chloe didn't understand, what my own son had forgotten, is that a woman who builds her house with her own hands also knows how to defend it, and I was ready for war. Only this time, I wasn't going to fight with screams. I was going to fight with something much more powerful, the truth. 3 years ago, Michael came home with a smile I hadn't seen since he was a boy. He had that light in his eyes that only appears when someone falls in love. And I, like any mother, wanted to believe that he had finally found happiness. How wrong I was. It was a Sunday afternoon. I was in the kitchen making a pot roast. The smell of herbs and roasting meat filled the entire house. Michael walked in holding her hand. "Mom, I want you to meet someone. This is Chloe." I looked up and saw her for the first time. She had long, straight hair, dyed a perfect shade of brown that you can only get in expensive salons. She wore tight designer jeans, a pristine white blouse, and high heels that clicked against my kitchen floor like little hammers. Her nails were done in a perfect French manicure. Her perfume was intense, the kind that costs over $100 a bottle. She looked me up and down just once, quickly, like someone sizing up a used piece of furniture before deciding if it's worth keeping. "It's so nice to meet you, Mrs. Eleanor." Her voice was soft but calculated. She smiled, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. I wiped my hands on my apron and extended my hand. She barely took it with her fingertips, as if she were afraid of getting dirty. "The pleasure is all mine, dear. Come in, come in. Have a seat. Dinner's almost ready." Michael was beaming. They sat at the table while I finished serving. I placed the steaming plates in front of them: pot roast, mashed potatoes, green beans, and fresh dinner rolls. Chloe looked at her plate as if I had served her poison. "Oh, Eleanor, it looks delicious, but I'm on a diet. Do you have anything lighter? A salad, maybe?" I felt a pang in my chest. I had spent 3 hours making that dinner. 3 hours preparing everything from scratch. "Of course, dear." I'll fix you something right now. Michael intervened quickly. Too quickly. Don't worry, Mom. Chloe has to watch her figure. She's a yoga instructor. She has a lot of important clients. Ah, a yoga instructor. Important clients. I swallowed the words I wanted to say and went to the kitchen to make her a salad. Lettuce, tomato, cucumber. Nothing else. No dressing because empty calories are the enemy, as she put it. During the meal, Michael couldn't stop talking about how wonderful Chloe was, about how they met at the gym he went to on weekends, about how she had taught him to value his body and live with intention. I just nodded, smiled. I asked the right questions, but something inside me didn't feel right. There was something in the way she looked at my house, as if she were taking inventory, calculating, planning. When they finished eating, Michael got up to take a work call. Chloe and I were left alone at the table. She leaned forward with a smile that was meant to be friendly. Eleanor, have you always lived here? Yes, dear. I built this house many years ago, after my husband passed away. Oh, how quaint. Quaint. That word hit me like a bucket of cold water. And you've always dressed like this? I looked down at myself. I was wearing a floral blouse I bought at a department store sale 2 years ago. Worn but clean blue jeans. My usual comfortable shoes. This is how I feel comfortable, dear. Of course. It's just, well, if you ever want me to help you update your wardrobe, I have contacts at a few stores. Nothing too expensive, you know. But something more current. Because with all due respect, sometimes you get stuck in the past without even realizing it. She smiled. Michael returned at that moment. Her expression changed completely. Your mom is such a sweetheart. I was just telling her we have to get along wonderfully. Michael looked at me with that light in his eyes. That son's light that believes his mother will finally not be alone, that she'll have female company, that she'll be happy, and I, as always, stayed quiet. The following months were a series of small stings, little comments wrapped in smiles, little humiliations disguised as concern. Oh, Eleanor, what's that smell? Kind of musty. Is it damp? We should change the curtains. Eleanor, are you seriously still using that old blender? Michael, we should buy her a new one. This one has served its purpose. Listen, Eleanor, why do you have so many pictures on the walls? It makes the house look so cluttered, so dark. I'm more into minimalism, you know? The modern look. Each comment was a small knife, but Michael always laughed, always said, That's just how she is, Mom. Don't take it personally. Chloe is very direct, but she means well. Means well. After a year of dating, Michael came home with the news. Mom, Chloe and I are getting married. He hugged me tightly. I hugged him back, feeling something inside me clench. But I smiled, because that's what mothers do. We smile even when our hearts are breaking. The wedding was small. I paid $1,500 to help with her dress. She never thanked me. Just said, Oh, Eleanor, you shouldn't have, though. Well, since you insisted, I didn't insist. She suggested it 3 times until I understood it was an obligation. And then came the proposal. The proposal that would change everything. 2 weeks after the wedding, Michael and Chloe came for dinner. I made a special turkey dinner with all the trimmings. It was September. I wanted to celebrate their marriage with something special. Chloe barely touched it. She said the stuffing was too heavy for her stomach. After dinner, Michael took my hand. Mom, we need to talk about something important. I sat down. My heart already knew something bad was coming. Chloe and I are saving up for our own house. But the market is so expensive. Apartments in decent areas cost over $200,000. And with my salary and the little she makes teaching classes, well, it's going to take us years. Chloe interrupted him in a sweet voice. What Michael is trying to say, Eleanor, is that this house is very big for you all alone. It has 3 bedrooms. You only use 1. And we're paying $1,100 a month in rent for a horrible place. A tiny apartment where we can barely fit. Michael continued. So we were thinking, what if we moved in here temporarily, just while we save up enough? A year, 2 at the most. I promise we won't be a bother. And that way, you won't be alone either. Everybody wins. I remained silent, looking at my son, at this woman I barely knew. And I made the biggest mistake of my life. I said yes. Of course, son. This is your house. It has always been your house. Chloe smiled. This time, it did reach her eyes. But it wasn't a smile of gratitude. It was a smile of victory. They moved in 3 days later. 2 suitcases, a garment bag, and a box of shoes. That was it. They said the rest of their things weren't worth bringing. I gave them the master bedroom, the biggest one, the one with the attached bathroom. No, Mom, that's your room. Don't worry, son. I'll move into the middle one. After all, it's only temporary. Temporary. That word would haunt me for the next 2.5 years. Because what started as a helping hand turned into a silent invasion. A power grab so slow, so calculated, that by the time I realized it, it was already too late. Or so I thought at that moment. Because what neither Chloe nor Michael knew was that this house had an owner, and that owner still had teeth. She was just waiting for the right moment to bite. The first 3 months were bearable. Chloe behaved. Well, more or less. She made comments here and there, but nothing I couldn't ignore. Michael worked long hours at his accounting firm. Sometimes he'd leave at 7 in the morning and get back at 9 at night. I cooked, cleaned, kept the house running like always. But something was changing. Slowly, imperceptibly at first. One day, I came home from grocery shopping and found the living room redecorated. The embroidered pillows I had made myself were in a bag next to the trash. In their place were minimalist gray pillows that looked like rocks. Oh, Eleanor, I hope you don't mind. It's just that those pillows made everything look so cluttered. I need spaces that can breathe, you know, for my peace of mind. I stood there, holding the grocery bags, staring at my pillows in the trash. Of course, dear, whatever you say. A week later, the photographs on the walls started to disappear. First was the one from my wedding to Arthur, then Michael's first communion picture, then the one of my mother. Chloe, have you seen the pictures that were here? Oh yes, I put them in a box in the storage closet. There were just too many, Eleanor. They made the walls look dirty. Besides, nobody uses picture frames anymore. Everything's on cell phones now. We have to modernize. The storage closet. My memories stored away like useless junk. I understand. But I didn't understand. I didn't understand how someone could walk into a house that wasn't theirs and erase the history of the people who actually lived there. Then came the friends. Chloe started inviting 3 women over every Thursday afternoon. They would arrive with their designer bags, their shrill laughter, their expensive shoes that left marks on my freshly mopped floor. They sat in my living room, drank the coffee I made, ate the cookies I bought, and treated me as if I were invisible. Or worse, as if I were the help. Ma'am, could you bring us more sugar? Ma'am, can you turn down the volume on the television? We're talking about important things. Ma'am, do you have any cloth napkins? These paper ones are so cheap. Chloe never corrected them. She laughed with them. Sometimes, as I walked past, I'd hear snippets of conversation. Isn't your mother-in-law going to move somewhere else? Oh, girl, it's complicated. It's her house, right? But we'll see. All in due time. Her house. At least she acknowledged that in front of her friends. Although the tone in which she said it sounded more like an annoyance than respect. But the worst was yet to come. One Saturday, Chloe decided to do a deep clean. I had gone out to visit Carol. When I returned, I found 3 large black trash bags full in the backyard. What's this, Chloe? Oh, Eleanor, I was cleaning and found so many old things that were no use anymore. Out-of-style clothes, broken shoes, books nobody reads. You have to let go of the past to make room for the new, don't you think? I opened one of the bags. Inside was the sweater Arthur used to wear on Sundays. The one that still held his scent. The poetry books I read on sleepless nights. The shoes I wore to Michael's wedding. Chloe, these are my things. Oh, Eleanor, but you don't use them anymore. They were stored in boxes taking up space. I thought I was doing you a favor. A favor. She was stripping me of my history and calling it a favor. I took everything out of the bags. I carried it to my room. Chloe sighed dramatically. Well, suit yourself if you want to live surrounded by old junk. That night, when Michael got home, I told him what had happened. I expected him to get upset, to defend me for once. "Mom, Chloe is just trying to help. You know she likes things to be orderly. Don't take it personally." That phrase became his answer for everything. But there was something I did take personally. Something that broke my heart in a way I didn't think was possible. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I was in the kitchen making iced tea. I heard Chloe talking on the phone in the living room. Her voice was louder than usual. "No, Mom, it's not that easy. She's still here." "Yes, I know, it's been 2 years. Michael says we can't kick her out because she's his mom. But Mom, this house is worth almost $300,000. If we sold it, we could buy something better in a decent neighborhood and still have money left over." "What?" "No, she has nowhere to go. She has a sister in some small town. But I don't think she'd want to go. Well, she'll have to get used to it. She's not at an age to be making decisions anymore." I stood frozen with the pitcher of iced tea in my hands. She wanted to sell my house. My house. The house I built with my own sweat. And Michael knew. And he hadn't said anything. I didn't eat dinner that night. I locked myself in my room. I cried silently, my face buried in the pillow so they wouldn't hear me. I felt like a stranger in my own home. Like a burden. Like something old that needed to be thrown away. And the worst part of it all was that Michael, my son, the boy I raised alone, whom I fed with tamales sold on the street, whom I dressed in second-hand clothes while I wore broken shoes, that same Michael was allowing all of this. He wasn't defending his wife from my supposed hostility. He was defending his wife from my existence. The following months were a slow descent into constant humiliation. Chloe stopped asking me for things. She started ordering me. "Eleanor, make breakfast. I'm in a hurry. Eleanor, wash this blouse by hand. The machine will ruin it. Eleanor, can you stay in your room when my friends come over? They talk about private things." I obeyed, because I didn't know what else to do, because I was afraid of losing my son, because at 67, I felt tired, so tired. And then came the record collection. Arthur used to collect vinyl records. Old soul music, classic rock, folk singers. We had 43 records. I kept them on a wooden shelf in the living room. To me, they were sacred. They were the only thing I had left of his voice singing on Sundays while we cooked together. One day I came home from the market and the shelf was empty. "Where are the records?" Chloe was painting her nails on the sofa. "Oh, those. I threw them out. They took up too much space, and nobody uses record players anymore, Eleanor. Besides, they smelled weird, like mildew." I felt the floor open up beneath my feet. "You threw them out?" "Yes, the garbage truck already came, so there's nothing to be done. But don't worry, I put a plant there. It looks much better, fresher." I stood there staring at her. This woman had just thrown away the last pieces of my husband, the last echoes of his voice. And she had done it with the same indifference with which one throws away a used piece of paper. I didn't say anything. I didn't scream. I didn't cry in front of her. I went to my room. I closed the door. I sat on the bed and cried until I had no more tears left. That night, something inside me began to die. Not my spirit, not my strength, but my fear. Because when you have nothing left to lose, when they have taken away everything you loved, when you have hit rock bottom, there's only one option left: to rise. And I was about to rise. I just didn't know it yet. What I needed was one last push, one final humiliation to break the last thread that tied me to submission. And that push was about to arrive. It was coming in the form of a surgery and some wet boxes in the backyard. The pain started on a Tuesday night, a sharp pain on my right side, just under my ribs. At first, I thought it was indigestion. Maybe something I ate didn't agree with me. I drank some chamomile tea and went to bed early. But the pain didn't go away. It stayed there, pulsing, growing like a beast waking up inside me. At 3 a.m, I woke up drenched in a cold sweat. The pain was unbearable. It doubled me over. I couldn't breathe properly. Every inhale was a stab. I dragged myself to the door of Michael and Chloe's bedroom. I knocked softly. "Son." "Michael." Silence. I knocked harder. "Michael, please. I feel really sick." I heard movement inside. Footsteps. The door opened just a crack. Chloe appeared, her face annoyed. Her hair was messy. Her eyes were swollen with sleep. "What is it, Eleanor? It's 3 in the morning. It hurts so much. Here. I can't. I can't breathe right. Oh, Eleanor. It's probably just gas. Take some Pepto-Bismol and go back to bed. Michael has to get up early. Don't wake him for this." And she closed the door. She closed the door in my face while I was doubled over in pain. I stood there, in the dark hallway, holding my side, feeling the pain intensify. Tears streamed down my cheeks, not just from physical pain, but from something much worse, absolute loneliness. I went back to my room. I sat on the bed. The pain was so intense, I started to feel dizzy. I picked up my cell phone with trembling hands and called the only number I knew would answer. "Hello? Carol? I'm so sorry to wake you." "Eleanor? What's wrong? You sound awful. It hurts so much. I don't know what to do. I'm on my way. Don't move." 15 minutes later, Carol was knocking on my door. She's had a copy of my keys for years. She came straight into my room and found me curled up, clutching my stomach. "Oh my God, Eleanor. This isn't normal. I'm taking you to the hospital right now." "No, I don't want to be a bother. Don't be silly, let's go." She helped me get dressed. She supported me as we walked to her car. We passed Michael's bedroom. The door was still closed. They didn't even come out to see what was happening. Carol took me to the emergency room at the general hospital. The doctors checked me quickly. Blood tests, ultrasound. A young doctor on duty explained with a serious voice. "Mrs. Eleanor, your gallbladder is severely inflamed. There are large stones. One is blocking the bile duct. We need to operate immediately. If we wait, there could be serious complications. Peritonitis, sepsis." Sepsis. That word sounded like death. "How much does the operation cost?" "Between $13,000 and $15,000, depending on complications." $15,000. Almost all that was left of my savings. "Go ahead, doctor. Do what you have to do." Carol squeezed my hand. "Do you want me to call Michael?" I thought about that closed door. About Chloe telling me it was just gas. About 2.5 years of being invisible in my own house. No, let him sleep. I was operated on that same morning. It was a complicated surgery. There was bleeding. My gallbladder was worse than they thought. I was in the operating room for 4 hours. When I woke up, it was already afternoon. Carol was still there, sitting by my bed, holding my hand. "How do you feel?" "Like I got hit by a truck." She smiled, but her eyes were watery. "Eleanor, the doctor said it was serious. If you had waited a few more hours." She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. "Did you call Michael?" "Yes, this morning. I told him you were in the hospital, that you'd had emergency surgery. He said he'd come as soon as he could, that he had an important meeting at the office." An important meeting. His mother almost dies, and he had an important meeting. Something inside me hardened at that moment, like metal cooling after a fire. "I see. Eleanor. It's okay, Carol. I get it now." The hours passed. Afternoon turned into evening. The nurses came in and out. They asked if I needed anything, if I was in pain, if I had called my family. Are they on their way? I lied. Carol stayed with me until 10 at night. She had to leave because her husband was alone at home and had just gotten out of the hospital himself with heart problems. "Don't worry. Go on home. I'm fine. I'll be back early tomorrow." "You don't have to." "I'll be back early," she repeated firmly. She kissed my forehead and left. I was alone in that hospital room. The smell of disinfectant, the constant beeping of the machines, the cold fluorescent light, and nobody came. That night I cried. I cried like I hadn't cried in years, not from the physical pain. The morphine took care of that. I cried from the pain in my soul, from feeling disposable, from realizing that to my son, I was no longer a priority. I was an obstacle. The next day, Michael showed up at 11 in the morning. He was wearing his office suit. He looked tired, stressed. "Mom, how are you?" "Alive, apparently." "Sorry I didn't come sooner. I had a meeting yesterday I couldn't cancel, and this morning I had to close out a report, but I'm here now." He sat in the chair by my bed. He checked his phone twice in 5 minutes. "Was it serious?" "Yes, son. You could have lost me." He fell silent. He put his phone away. He looked at me with guilt. I'm sorry, Mom. Where's Chloe? At home. She wasn't feeling well. I think she caught a cold. A cold. I almost died, and she had a cold. I see. But she asked me to give you a hug from her. A hug from her. How generous. Michael stayed for 20 more minutes. We talked about unimportant things. The weather, his work, how expensive gas was. We didn't talk about what was really important. About how I felt ignored that morning. About how his wife closed the door in my face. About how I was alone in the ER while he slept peacefully. Before he left, he kissed my forehead. Call me if you need anything, okay? I'll come when I can. When he can. He didn't come back. I was hospitalized for 12 days. 12 days because there were complications. An infection. A high fever. The doctors had to adjust my antibiotics 3 times. Carol came every day. She brought me chicken soup in a thermos. She combed my hair. She read me the newspaper out loud. She walked with me down the hallways when the doctors allowed it. Michael sent texts. How are you feeling, Mom? Hope you get better soon. Sending a hug. Texts. Not calls. Not visits. Just empty words on a screen. Chloe sent nothing. The nurses asked me constantly, Mrs. Eleanor, is your family coming today? They're very busy. Do you have children? 1. A son. And he can't come? He works a lot. He's an accountant. The nurses would exchange glances. I knew what they were thinking. The same thing I was thinking. The day I was discharged, I called Michael. Son, they're discharging me. Can you come get me? Oh, Mom, I have a super important presentation today at 3. I can't leave. Can't you just take a cab? A cab. After major surgery. After 12 days alone in the hospital. After almost dying. A cab. Of course, son. Don't worry about it. Perfect. See you at home then. Take care. And he hung up. I called a cab. I paid $35. The driver helped me with my small suitcase. He asked if I was okay. I said yes, that I was just coming from an operation. And no one came for you? My family is busy. He looked at me in the rearview mirror with sadness. Times have changed, ma'am. Family used to be sacred. Yes, I said. Times have changed. But what that cab driver didn't know, what nobody knew yet, was that I was about to change too. Why? There's a moment in every person's life where you decide if you're going to keep being a victim or become something else. I had been a victim long enough. When that cab stopped in front of my house, when I got out with pain still pulsing in my abdomen, when I walked towards that door that I myself had painted, something new was born inside me. It wasn't rage. Rage is hot and consumes itself quickly. This was something cold, calculated, definitive. It was the certainty that I deserved better, and I was ready to claim it. The cab drove away. I stood there in front of the green gate, the same gate I painted 5 years ago with my own hands. The midday sun beat down on my back. I felt the weight of the small suitcase in my right hand. The scar under my blouse burned with every breath. I opened the gate slowly. The creak of the hinges sounded louder than usual. Or maybe everything just sounded louder. Maybe all my senses were more alert after having brushed with death. I walked through the small front yard. The plants I used to tend were dry. No one had watered them. The leaves of the rose bush I planted in Arthur's memory were withered, falling like brown tears onto the dirt. I opened the front door with my key. The house was silent. A strange silence, like when you enter a place that used to be yours but no longer recognizes you. Michael? Chloe? No one answered. I left the suitcase by the door. I walked slowly down the hall. Each step was an effort. The doctors told me not to make any sudden movements, not to lift anything heavy, to rest, but something inside me pushed me to keep walking. The living room was spotless, too spotless, the new gray pillows in their place. The plant where Arthur's records used to be. Everything was neat, cold, soulless. I kept walking. I passed the kitchen. The breakfast dishes were piled in the sink. No one had washed them. It smelled like burnt coffee. And then I reached my bedroom. The door was ajar. I pushed it with my hand. The door swung open slowly, like in a horror movie. And what I saw took my breath away. Emptiness. The room was completely empty. My bed was gone. The mattress I slept on for 20 years. The sheets I had mended myself when they tore. All gone. The wooden dresser from the flea market. The nightstand where I kept my rosary. The lamp Michael gave me for my 60th birthday. The woven rug I bought years ago. Nothing. The walls were bare. Only the lighter patches remained where the photographs had hung. Ghosts of what my life once was. My heart started to beat faster. Too fast. I felt dizzy. I held onto the doorframe. Where was everything? I walked faster than I should have. The pain in my abdomen protested, but I didn't care. I crossed the living room again, passed through the dining room. I reached the back door that led to the yard, and there I saw it all. My belongings piled up in cardboard boxes. 6 large boxes. Some were soaked from the morning dew. Others had bent corners, as if they had been dragged carelessly. I approached with slow steps. My legs were shaking. I opened the first box, my clothes. All my clothes jumbled together without any order. The dresses I wore to church on Sundays, the blouses I wore to go grocery shopping, underwear, socks, scarves, all mixed up as if it were trash. I opened the second box. My shoes. The comfortable ones I wore every day, the low heels I saved for special occasions. All dirty. Some had mold on the soles from the dampness. The third box. The sheets from my bed, the towels, the blankets I knitted by hand over years of lonely winters. The fourth box. My books. The poetry books I read at night. The Bible my mother gave me on her deathbed. The recipe book where I wrote down all of Michael's favorite meals when he was a boy. The fifth box. Photographs. Hundreds of photos without an album. Unprotected. Wet. Some were already stuck together. The photo from my wedding to Arthur. The photo of Michael at his graduation. The photo of my parents. 30 years of family memory being destroyed by the sun and the damp. And the sixth box. My mother's rosary. Arthur's sweater that I refused to throw away. The letters Michael wrote to me from summer camp when he was 13. I miss you, Mom. You're the best in the world. You're the best in the world. I dropped to my knees beside the boxes. The physical pain was nothing compared to what I felt in my chest. A void. A black hole swallowing me from the inside. My entire life reduced to 6 wet boxes in the backyard. Like trash. Like something that was in the way. Like something disposable. I didn't cry. I don't know why, but I didn't cry. Maybe I had no tears left. Maybe I had cried so much in the hospital that my body had decided enough was enough. I stayed there, kneeling, looking at those boxes, feeling everything I once was turn to dust. And then I heard her. Footsteps behind me, heels on the concrete of the patio. Oh, Eleanor, you're back. I turned slowly. Chloe was standing in the doorway. She was wearing a pale pink silk robe. Her hair was in a perfect bun. Her nails were flawlessly manicured. In her right hand, she held a small mirror. My mirror. The one Arthur gave me. She was applying mascara, as if nothing was wrong. As if I weren't kneeling in front of the wreckage of my life. She glanced at me for a second. Her eyes passed over me with the same indifference one gives an old piece of furniture. I thought you weren't coming back. So I cleaned out your closet. Her voice was casual, light, like someone commenting on the nice weather. I got to my feet with difficulty. Pain shot through my abdomen. I winced but said nothing. I held onto one of the boxes to keep from falling. You cleaned out my closet? Yes. We needed the space for my beauty studio. You know, to work from home. I'm going to give makeup classes, and I need a quiet, well-lit place. Your room is perfect. It has the big window and everything. She continued applying her mascara. She wasn't looking at me. She didn't even have the decency to look me in the eyes. Those are my things, Chloe. Oh, Eleanor, don't be so dramatic. They're all there. I didn't throw anything away. Well, a few little things that were really old and torn. That's all. But the important stuff is in the boxes. The important stuff. I looked at the wet photographs. My mother's rosary. Arthur's sweater. These things are wet, ruined. Well, I took them out 2 days ago, but you didn't come back. and I wasn't going to put them back in. Besides, it rained last night. It's not my fault. 2 days ago, I had been in the hospital for 12 days. She took my things out when I had been fighting for my life for 10 days. And does Michael know about this? Chloe stopped applying her makeup for a moment. She looked at me directly for the first time. There was something in her eyes. It wasn't guilt. It wasn't shame. It was satisfaction. Of course he knows. He gave me permission. He said if you didn't come back, well, what was the point of keeping all that stuff? And if you did come back, well, we could talk. But you know Michael, he doesn't like confrontation. He prefers to let things just flow. Let things just flow. My son knew she was going to take out my belongings. And he did nothing. He didn't call me. He didn't warn me. He didn't stop her. I felt something strange at that moment. It wasn't sadness. It wasn't rage. It was absolute clarity. Like when a dirty window breaks and suddenly you can see everything with perfect sharpness. I saw this woman standing in front of me, with my mirror in her hand, in my house, using my bedroom, disposing of my life like someone throwing out the trash. And I understood something fundamental. This wasn't going to stop. She wasn't going to change. Michael wasn't going to defend me. If I didn't do something, I would end up living in a storage room in my own house. Or worse, on the street. Because that's what she wanted. For me to leave, to disappear, to cease to exist. And then I did something that took her by surprise. I smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. It wasn't a smile of resignation. It was a cold smile. Calm. Dangerous. Good. Chloe stopped applying her makeup. She looked at me, confused. What? I said, good that you cleaned out my closet, dear. Because now I'm the one who's going to do the cleaning. What are you talking about? I took a step toward her, slowly, holding my wound but never taking my eyes off hers. And I'm starting with you. Her mirror fell to the ground with a dry thud. Her face went pale. All that confidence, all that indifference she had just a moment ago, it evaporated. The color drained from her face, as if she had seen something in my eyes she never expected to see. Fear, because maybe, for the first time in 2.5 years, Chloe understood something important. This house had an owner, and that owner had just woken up, pick up my things, and take them to the living room. All of them. Now. What? No, I'm not. Now, Chloe. My voice wasn't loud. I wasn't yelling. But there was something in my tone that made her freeze. Something that told her the game was over. That the submissive woman, the invisible woman, the woman who put up with everything in silence, that woman had died in the hospital, and the one standing in front of her was someone else. Someone with nothing left to lose, and that made me dangerous. Chloe swallowed hard. She looked at the boxes, she looked at me, and for the first time since I'd met her, she lowered her gaze. Okay, I'll carry them. Good. Start. She bent down, picked up a box, carried it with difficulty, her perfectly manicured hands, now dirty with wet cardboard. I watched her walk toward the house, carrying my things, my memories, my life. And I stood there in the yard, under the midday sun, feeling something inside me harden like steel. Because now came the hard part. Now came the war. But I wasn't going to fight with screams or tears. I was going to fight with something much more powerful, the truth. And the truth was, this house was mine. The deed was in my name. I paid for every brick, every window, every door, and nobody, absolutely nobody, was going to take it from me. Chloe finished bringing the boxes into the living room. She piled them next to the sofa as if they were a temporary inconvenience. Her hands were dirty, her hair was a little messy. She kept glancing at me, waiting for me to say something else, waiting for me to scream, to cry, to make a scene. But I said nothing. I just looked at her, and in that silence, she understood that something had changed. She wiped her hands on her silk robe. It left a dark, damp stain. She frowned at the stain, as if it were the most important thing in the world right now. Can I go now? For now. Those 2 words made her hesitate. She stood there, uncomfortable, as if she didn't know whether to stay or go. Finally, she turned and walked toward the bedroom. My bedroom. The one she had now turned into her beauty studio. I was left alone in the living room, surrounded by my boxes. I sat on the sofa. The pain in my abdomen reminded me that I was still weak, that I had just gotten out of the hospital, that I should be resting. But I couldn't rest, not yet. I took my cell phone out of my pocket. My hands were trembling. I dialed Michael's number. It rang 5 times before he answered. Hello? Michael? It's me. Mom, you're back? Is everything okay? His voice sounded distracted. I could hear background noise. Voices. He was probably at the office, surrounded by people. I need you to come home. Now. Mom, I'm in the middle of a meeting. Can it wait? No, it can't wait. There was a silence. Maybe he detected something different in my voice, something he hadn't heard before. Did something happen? I got home and all my things were in the backyard. In boxes. Wet. Another silence. Longer this time. Oh, that. Look, Mom. Chloe mentioned she needed your room for her project. I told her to wait until she talked to you. But, well, you know how she is. She gets ahead of herself sometimes. Gets ahead of herself. As if throwing out all of someone's belongings was just getting ahead of herself. Michael, I just came from the hospital. I almost died. And I came home to find my entire life thrown out like trash. Mom, don't exaggerate. They're in boxes. She didn't throw them away. We can put them somewhere else. Somewhere else? This is my house, Michael. Yes, of course it's your house. Nobody's saying it isn't. Then come home. Now. The 3 of us need to talk. He sighed. That sigh he used when I bothered him with my problems. Okay, I'll leave in an hour. I'll be there around 7. Can you wait until then? I looked at the clock. It was 2:30 in the afternoon. Yes, I can wait. Perfect. We'll talk later. Take care, Mom. And he hung up. Take care, Mom. As if it were that simple. I left the phone on the table. I sat there, looking at the boxes, thinking, analyzing every detail of the last 2.5 years. And it was at that moment, in the silence of the afternoon, that I made a decision. I wasn't going to react emotionally. I wasn't going to scream or cry or beg. That version of me was useless now. I had already tried being the understanding mother, the tolerant mother-in-law, the woman who made herself small so as not to bother anyone. And it had led me to be kneeling, in front of my own belongings, in the backyard of my own house. No, this time I was going to do things differently. I was going to play the game, but by my rules. I got up from the sofa carefully. I went to my purse and took out my old notebook, the one where I kept track of my grocery bills. I found a pen and started writing. I made a list. A list of everything I knew, everything I had seen, everything I had heard. The bank statements I had found in the trash 3 months ago. Chloe had used my credit card without permission. $62,000 in purchases I hadn't authorized. Clothes, shoes, beauty treatments. The conversations I had overheard. That time, she spoke to her mother on the phone about selling the house. The texts on Michael's phone. The ones I checked one night when he fell asleep. Texts where Chloe pressured him. Your mother has lived here long enough. We need our space. The real estate agent. I had seen a woman with a briefcase enter the house 2 weeks ago. Chloe was showing her the rooms. I overheard snippets of conversation. This property could easily sell for $300,000. I wrote everything down. Dates, names, amounts. And then I did something I had never done in my life. I called a lawyer. Not just any lawyer. I called Ethan Hayes, a man I had met years ago when I sold tamales on Sundays. He was a law student then. I used to give him an extra tamale when I saw he only had coins to buy one. He would tell me, Mrs. Eleanor, one day I'll pay you back. I never knew what became of him until 6 months ago. I saw him in the local paper. Now he was a lawyer specializing in family and property law. He had his own firm. I looked up his office number online. I dialed with my heart pounding. Hayes and Associates Law Firm. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I'd like to speak with Mr. Ethan Hayes, please. Who may I say is calling? Eleanor. Eleanor Villarreal. Tell him, I'm the tamale lady. There was a pause. then hold music. And then his voice. Mrs. Eleanor? Ethan? I mean, Mr. Hayes. I'm sorry. No, no, ma'am. For you, I'll always be Ethan. How are you? It's been years. I need help, son. Legal help. His tone changed immediately. Professional, but warm. Tell me what's happening. And I told him everything. Every detail. From Chloe's arrival to the boxes in the yard. From the unauthorized charges to the plans to sell my house. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, there was a silence. Mrs. Eleanor, this is financial elder abuse and possible fraud. Do you have the deed to the house? Yes, it's in a safe in my closet. Or it was. I don't know if it's still there. Check. Now. And if it is, put it somewhere safe where no one else has access. Is the house in your name only? In my name only. No co-owners. Perfect. That gives us a very strong position. Do you have the credit card statements? The ones I found in the trash? I saved them. Excellent. I need you to do something else. Can you record conversations? Record? Your cell phone has a voice recorder. Use it. If Chloe or your son say anything incriminating about the house, about selling it, about kicking you out, record it. It's legal to record in your own home. Those recordings can be used as evidence. I understand. Mrs. Eleanor, I'm going to be very clear with you. If you want to regain control of your house and your life, you have to be willing to see this through to the end. This could get ugly. Your son is going to have to choose a side. He already chose a side, Ethan, a long time ago. Then, are you ready? I looked at the boxes. I looked at the walls of my house. I thought about all the years it took me to build this. I thought about Arthur, about the early mornings cleaning offices, about the tamales sold under the Sunday. I'm ready. Good. I'll come to your house tomorrow. I'll bring the necessary documents. In the meantime, act normal. Don't let them see you're planning something. Can you do that? I can. One last thing, ma'am. We should also contact Chloe's mother. Sometimes families don't know how their children behave. And if she's a decent woman, we might have an ally. Chloe's mother. I hadn't thought of that. I only knew her from the wedding. A serious woman with a tired face. Mrs. Davis. I remembered she apologized to me for not being able to help more with the wedding expenses. I think I have her number saved somewhere. Find it. We may need it. Thank you, Ethan. You don't know how much this means to me. You gave me food when I had nothing, ma'am. You treated me with dignity when I was just a poor student. Now it's my turn to return some of that kindness. Don't thank me. Just get ready, because what's coming won't be easy. We hung up. I sat there, feeling something I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. No, it wasn't just hope. It was something stronger. It was determination. It was power. It was the certainty that I wasn't alone, that I had rights, that this battle could be won. I went to my bedroom. Well, the one Chloe had now taken over. I opened the door without knocking. She was there, arranging bottles of nail polish on a new shelf. She turned, surprised. What are you doing here? I came for something that's mine. I walked to the closet. I opened it. The safe was still on the floor, partially covered by a blanket. I pulled it out. What's that? Nothing that concerns you. I dialed the combination. It opened. Inside were the deed to the house, the original documents, my ID, the will I had made years ago, leaving everything to Michael. I took out the deed. I folded it and put it in my purse. Chloe watched me with suspicion. Why are you taking that? For security. Security? From who? I looked her directly in the eyes. From whoever is necessary. I left the room. She stood there, a bottle of nail polish in her hand, watching me leave with a confused expression. I went back to the living room. I put the deed in my purse and waited. The next few hours were eternal. I sat on the sofa. I didn't eat. I didn't turn on the TV. I just waited. Chloe came out of the room a couple of times. She would glance at me out of the corner of her eye. I would smile at her, a calm smile that clearly made her nervous. Because there was something different about me, and she could feel it. At 7:15, I heard Michael's car pull up outside. The door opened. He walked in with his briefcase, looking tired. "Mom, I'm home." "Okay, tell me what happened." He sat down across from me. Chloe came out of the room and stood behind him, her arms crossed. And there we were, the three of us, like a dysfunctional family in a stage play. I looked at them both. And I smiled. That smile that changed everything. Because at that moment, they still thought I was the same old woman. The one who endured. The one who forgave. The one who made herself small. They didn't know that woman had died in the hospital. And the one sitting across from them was someone completely different. Someone who was no longer afraid. Someone who was ready to take back what was hers. "Sit down properly," I said in a calm voice, "because this is going to take a while." And I began to speak. That night, I didn't tell them everything I knew. I didn't show them all my cards. Because that's the difference between reacting with emotion and acting with intelligence. Emotion screams. Intelligence waits. I told them enough. I told them I felt humiliated to find my things in the yard, that I needed time to recover from the surgery, that I expected more respect from both of them. Michael apologized. He said it was all a misunderstanding, that Chloe had gotten ahead of herself, but that she had good intentions. Chloe just nodded. She didn't apologize. She just said, "I didn't mean to offend you, Eleanor." But her eyes said something else. Her eyes said, "This isn't over." And she was right. It wasn't over. It was just beginning. I told them I would stay in the small bedroom, the one that faced the backyard. The smallest one. The coldest one. The one I used to use as a sewing room. "I'll be fine there," I said. "I just need my bed and my basic things." Michael seemed relieved. As if everything could be solved with a simple relocation. "I'll help you set everything up tomorrow, Mom." "That's not necessary. I can do it." That night, after they had locked themselves in the master bedroom, I stayed awake in that small room. I had assembled my bed as best I could. I took my blankets out of the boxes. I hung a few blouses in the tiny closet. And then I did what I had to do. I took out my cell phone. I scrolled through my contacts until I found the number I needed. Mrs. Davis. Chloe's mother. It was 11 at night. Maybe too late to call. But something told me I had to do it now. Before I lost my nerve. I dialed. It rang 4 times. "Hello?" A tired voice. "An older woman. Mrs. Davis?" "Yes, who's this?" "This is Eleanor. Eleanor Villarreal, Chloe's mother-in-law." There was a surprised silence. "Oh, Mrs. Eleanor. What a surprise. Is everything okay?" "It's a bit late. Forgive the hour, Mrs. Davis. I need to talk to you. It's important. Did something happen to Chloe?" "No. Well, yes. It's complicated. Could we meet tomorrow? Somewhere neutral? A coffee shop, maybe?" Another silence. Longer this time. "Does Chloe know you're calling me?" "No. I see." Her voice changed. It became more serious. "Look, Mrs. Eleanor. I know my daughter. I know what she's like. If you're calling me behind her back, it's because something serious is happening." "Very serious, Mrs. Davis. Tell me where and when. I'll be there." I gave her the name of a coffee shop that was 10 blocks from my house. We agreed to meet at 11 in the morning. When I hung up, I felt like I had taken the first real step. I was no longer alone. I was building something, a plan, a strategy. It was hard to sleep that night. The mattress was thinner than my old one. The room was cold. I could hear the sounds from the street. But it wasn't just that. It was the adrenaline, the anticipation. For the first time in years, I felt like I had control over something. The next morning, I got up early. I made coffee. I prepared breakfast. Scrambled eggs, toast, hot coffee. As always, Michael left in a hurry. He gave me a kiss on the forehead. "Thanks for breakfast, Mom. You look better." "I feel better, son." Chloe came out later. She only had a glass of green juice that she made herself in the blender. She glanced at me as she drank it. "Are you going out today, Eleanor?" "Yes, I have a follow-up doctor's appointment." "Oh well, hope it goes well." A lie. I didn't have a doctor's appointment, but she didn't need to know the truth. At 10:30, I left the house. I walked slowly. The wound still bothered me, but the movement was good for me. The morning sun warmed my back. I felt like every step was taking me away from the darkness and closer to the light. I arrived at the coffee shop 5 minutes early. I ordered a black coffee. I sat at a table in the back where I could see the entrance. At 11 o'clock sharp, Mrs. Davis walked through the door. I recognized her immediately. She had the same dark hair as Chloe, but with streaks of gray. She was wearing a simple cotton blouse and jeans. Comfortable shoes. She looked like what she was, a working woman, not like her daughter. She saw me and walked over. We greeted each other with an awkward hug. She ordered a coffee with milk and sat down across from me. "Well, Mrs. Eleanor, here I am. Tell me what's going on." And I told her everything. I told her about the boxes in the yard, the unauthorized charges on my card, the plans to sell my house, how they closed the door on me when I asked for help the night I got sick. About 2.5 years of humiliation disguised as help. Mrs. Davis listened, her face growing more serious by the minute. Sometimes she shook her head. Sometimes she pressed her lips together. When I finished, she was silent for a long moment. She picked up her coffee. She put it down on the table. She looked at me with sad eyes. "Mrs. Eleanor, I owe you an apology. A big one." "Why?" "Because I raised that girl. And somewhere along the way, I failed. I don't know where. I don't know when. But I failed." Her voice was trembling. Chloe was always ambitious. Ever since she was little, she wanted what we didn't have. She was ashamed that I worked cleaning houses, that we lived in a humble neighborhood. When she was old enough to work, she never wanted to do anything that would get her hands dirty. She always looked for the easy way out. "Mrs. Davis, no, let me finish. I warned her when she married Michael. I told her, respect your mother-in-law. That woman sacrificed her life for that boy. Don't you dare look down on her." But Chloe just said, "Oh, Mom, you're always so dramatic. I know what I'm doing." She wiped away a tear that was beginning to form. "And now, I find this out, that my daughter put your things in the yard as if they were trash, that she's using your credit card without permission, that she wants to sell your house. Mrs. Eleanor, I didn't raise a thief. I didn't raise someone who abuses the elderly. But that's what my daughter is. And it hurts me to admit it, but it's the truth." I took her hand. It was cold. "It's not your fault, Mrs. Davis." "Yes, it is. Because I overprotected her. I gave her everything I could, even if it wasn't much. And I never taught her the value of hard work, of respect, of gratitude." We sat in silence for a moment. The sound of the coffee shop surrounded us. People laughing, cups clinking, background music. "What are you going to do?" she asked. "I'm going to get my house back. And my dignity." "How?" I told her about the lawyer, about the deed I had secured, about the evidence I was gathering. "I need your help, Mrs. Davis. Whatever you need. Anything. When the time comes, I need you to be there. I need your daughter to see that you know the truth, that I'm not alone in this. Sometimes, shame hurts more than any legal punishment." She nodded firmly. "I'll be there. I promise." We said goodbye with a hug, warmer this time, more real. When I left that coffee shop, I felt like I had won something important. An ally. A witness. Someone who could confirm that I wasn't crazy, that I wasn't exaggerating. I walked back home slowly. Chloe was in the living room, looking at her phone. She looked up when I came in. "How was your appointment?" "Good. Everything is healing well." "That's good." I went to my small room. I closed the door. And then I did something Ethan had asked me to do. I activated the voice recorder on my cell phone. I left it in my pocket, recording. Because from now on, every conversation could be evidence. Every word could be the difference between winning and losing. The next few days were strange. I acted normally. I cooked, I cleaned, I smiled. But inside, I was watching everything, noting everything. Chloe started getting more calls. I would listen from my room. "Yes, Mom." "No, not yet. It's more complicated than I thought. She's being difficult. I don't know. Michael isn't supporting me like he should." I realized something. Chloe was lying to her own mother. Mrs. Davis knew nothing of what was really happening. Her daughter was painting a different picture for her. One afternoon, while Chloe was in the shower, I checked her purse. I know, it's not right. But I no longer cared about what was right or wrong. I cared about the truth. I found a brochure from a real estate agency, an appraisal of the house, $320,000. I also found a piece of paper with numbers jotted down. Calculations, $320,000. Commission, 6%, $19,200. Net, $300,800. Divided by 2, $150,000, $400 each. Divided by 2. Her and Michael. They were planning to split the money from the sale of my house. My house. The house I built with my own hands. I took a picture with my cell phone. I put everything back in its place. I returned to my room just as I heard her turn off the shower. That evening, Ethan came to the house. He arrived at 8, when Michael still wasn't home from work. I answered the door, feigning surprise when I saw him. "Ethan, what are you doing here?" "Mrs. Eleanor, I was in the neighborhood and remembered you lived around here. I wanted to say hello." Chloe appeared behind me. "Who is it?" "An old friend." "Ethan, this is Chloe, my daughter-in-law." He extended his hand. He smiled professionally. "A pleasure to meet you. Ethan Hayes, attorney at law. Mrs. Eleanor helped me a lot when I was a student." The word attorney made Chloe's expression flicker for a split second, just long enough for me to notice. "Nice to meet you," she said in a controlled voice. "May I come in for a moment? I'd love to catch up with Mrs. Eleanor." Of course, I said. "Come in, son." We sat in the living room. Chloe excused herself, saying she had things to do in her room, but I knew she was listening from the hallway. Ethan spoke in a normal voice, as if we were really just catching up. He asked about my health, about Michael, about the house, and I answered naturally. But in my purse, my phone was recording everything. Before he left, he gave me an envelope. He did it discreetly, like someone giving a gift. "A little something, ma'am. For old time's sake. Thank you, son. You're very kind." When I closed the door, Chloe came out of her room. "Who was that?" "A young man I knew years ago. He became a lawyer, imagine that. And what did he want?" "Nothing, just to say hello." I looked her straight in the eye. "Why? Are you worried about something?" "No, just curious." But I saw the fear in her eyes. Because now she knew I was in contact with a lawyer, and that changed things. That night, in my room, I opened the envelope Ethan had given me. Inside were legal documents, options, strategies, and a handwritten note. "Mrs. Eleanor, you have every right on your side. When you're ready, we will take the next step. Trust me, trust the justice system, and above all, trust yourself. Ethan." I put the documents in a safe place, under the mattress of my new bed, in an envelope marked medical prescriptions. And I continued to wait, watching, collecting evidence. Because a war isn't won in a day. It's won with patience, with strategy. And I had learned to be very patient. All that was left was the perfect moment to strike, and that moment was getting closer and closer. 2 weeks passed. 2 weeks where I acted like the submissive mother-in-law I had always been. I cooked, I cleaned, I smiled. But inside, every piece was moving into place. Ethan and I communicated through texts. He guided me, told me what to look for, what to record, what to document. And I obeyed. I found more things, many more. One afternoon, while Chloe was at her yoga class, I checked the desk she had set up in my old bedroom. There they were, the original credit card statements, the ones she had taken from the mail before I could see them, $62,300 in unauthorized purchases. Shoes from Nordstrom for $8,000. Facials for $15,000. Clothes from an expensive boutique for $18,000. Dinners at restaurants I had never set foot in, all charged to my card. I took photos of every statement. I put them back exactly as I found them. I also found something else. A folder with papers from a notary's office. Chloe had been researching how to transfer property. There were notes in her handwriting. Power of attorney? Gifting while alive? Sale with right of usufruct? She was looking for legal ways to take the house from me without me being able to do anything. I took photos of everything. Another afternoon, while I was preparing lunch, I heard Chloe talking on the phone in the backyard. I left the stove on and went to the window. I activated the recorder on my phone. No, Mom, I told you. Everything is under control. Yes, the house is worth over $300,000. Michael is still hesitant, but I'm working on him. Don't worry, by the end of the year, this will be settled. She has nowhere to go. She'll have to accept whatever I offer her. I recorded everything. 5 full minutes of conversation. When she ended the call and came inside, I was back at the stove, stirring the rice as if nothing had happened. Who were you talking to, dear? No one important. A friend. Oh, that's nice. Lunch is almost ready. She looked at me strangely, as if something wasn't right, as if she sensed I knew more than I was letting on. But she said nothing. The day Ethan had asked for arrived. The day of the confrontation. Mrs. Eleanor, he told me on the phone, we have enough evidence. It's time to spring the trap. We're going to have a family meeting. You, Michael, Chloe, Mrs. Davis, and me. At your house, this Saturday. Are you sure? Completely. Trust me. What if Michael refuses to come? He won't refuse, because you're going to tell him it's an important meeting about the house, that he needs to sign some papers. He'll come. He was right. On Wednesday night, when Michael got home from work, I waited for him in the living room. Son, I need to talk to you. Tell me, Mom, is everything okay? Yes, everything's fine. I just need you to be here on Saturday, at 4 in the afternoon. Don't make other plans. What for? There are some papers I need to sign. About the will. I want you to be present, and I want Chloe to be here too. I saw something in his eyes. Hope? Greed? Of course, Mom. We'll be there. Do you need help with anything? No, everything's arranged. My lawyer is coming. Your lawyer? I didn't know you had a lawyer. I do now. It's important to have things in order at my age. He nodded. He seemed calm. He probably thought he was going to inherit everything right then and there, that I was preparing for my death. How wrong he was. Saturday arrived. I got up early. I got ready carefully. I put on my favorite blouse, the one Arthur gave me, the one with blue flowers. I did my hair nicely. I put on a little makeup. I wanted to look good for what was coming. I wanted them to see me for who I was, the owner of this house. At 3:30, Ethan arrived. He was carrying his leather briefcase. He was dressed formally, in a suit. He greeted me with a kiss on the cheek. Ready, Mrs. Eleanor? Ready? Nervous? No, I'm not afraid anymore. Good, because they're going to be. At 3:50, Mrs. Davis arrived. I had asked her to come a little early. I needed to prepare her for what she was about to hear. Mrs. Davis, what's going to happen here is going to be difficult. You're going to hear things about your daughter that will hurt you. I know, and I'm prepared. Do what you have to do, Mrs. Eleanor. At 4 o'clock sharp, Michael and Chloe came out of their room. They were surprised to see Ethan. They were even more surprised to see Mrs. Davis. Mom, what are you doing here? Chloe turned pale. I was invited. Sit down, dear. What is going on here? Michael looked at me, confused. Please, sit down, I said in a firm voice. They both sat on the sofa, together, like a single unit, like they had been for 2.5 years a team against me. I sat in the armchair. Ethan stood beside me. Mrs. Davis sat in another chair, serious, her hands clasped in her lap. The silence was thick. I could hear the ticking of the clock on the wall. Well, Ethan began, thank you all for being here. My name is Ethan Hayes. I'm a lawyer specializing in family and property law. Mrs. Eleanor hired me to resolve a situation that has become unsustainable. Chloe squeezed Michael's hand. He swallowed hard. What situation? Michael asked. I took the floor. The situation where you two are trying to steal my house. Michael turned pale. What? Mom, what are you talking about? Nobody is trying to steal anything from you. Oh, really? Ethan opened his briefcase. Then what is this? He took out the printouts. He placed them on the coffee table, one by one, like poker cards. The credit card statements. The photos of the notary papers. The house appraisal. The calculations for splitting the money. The transcripts of the recorded conversations. Everything. Chloe stopped breathing. I literally saw the color drain from her face. Michael picked up the papers with trembling hands. He read them, one by one, and with each paper, his expression changed from confusion to surprise, from surprise to shame. "Chloe, what is this?" She didn't answer. She was speechless. "Did you use my mom's credit card without permission? $62,000? Silence. Were you researching how to sell the house? Without telling me?" More silence. Mrs. Davis spoke. Her voice was as cold as ice. "Daughter, look at me." Chloe looked up. Her eyes were filled with tears. "Mom, No, don't say anything. Because there's nothing you can say to justify this." Mrs. Davis picked up one of the papers. The transcribed recording. She read it aloud. "She has nowhere to go. She'll have to accept whatever I offer her. That's what you said. About the woman who opened her home to you, who gave you a roof over your head, who cooked for you for 2.5 years. Mom, it's not what it looks like." "Oh, isn't it? Then explain to me what it is. Because from where I'm standing, my daughter has become the thing I despise most in this world. An abuser." Chloe started to cry, but they weren't tears of remorse. They were tears of rage, of frustration at being caught. Michael put the papers down on the table. He looked at me with red eyes. "Mom, I didn't know about all this. I swear, I knew Chloe wanted us to sell the house someday, but I thought it was just an idea. I didn't know she was researching how to do it. I didn't know about the card. I didn't know. And the boxes in the yard? You knew about those, didn't you?" He was silent. "Ansvemi, Michael. Did you know they were going to put my things in the yard while I was in the hospital fighting for my life? She told me they were just going to reorganize, that they were going to give you the cooler, quieter room." "Lies," Chloe said suddenly. "You knew exactly what we were doing. Don't play the victim now." Michael looked at her in disbelief. "What? You heard me. You knew we wanted your mom to leave, that she was in our way. We talked about it 100 times. But now that you're caught, you're acting all surprised. It was like watching a mask fall off." Chloe wasn't pretending anymore. She wasn't acting. She was showing her true face. And it was ugly. Ethan spoke again. "Mr. Michael, Mrs. Chloe, let me explain your legal situation. First, the unauthorized use of a credit card is fraud. It's a criminal offense. Second, any attempt to transfer or sell a property without the owner's consent also constitutes fraud. Third, financial abuse of a senior citizen is an aggravating factor that can result in jail time." Chloe stopped crying. Now she was just staring at the floor. But Mrs. Eleanor is a generous woman. She doesn't want to destroy her family. So she asked me to give you an option. Michael looked at me with hope. "What option, Mom?" I stood up. My abdomen hurt, but I didn't care. I needed to be standing for this. "Chloe, this is your option. You stay in this house for 1 more month. Just 1. During that month, you will work. You will clean. You will cook. You will do the laundry. Just like I did for 2.5 years without anyone thanking me. You will pay rent. $850 a month. And you will pay back the $62,000 you stole from my card. You can pay it in installments if you want. But I need a promissory note signed before a notary." She looked up. Her eyes were flashing. "And if I refuse? Then we press criminal charges. And Ethan assures me that with this evidence, you will go to jail." Absolute silence. "You decide," I continued, "dignity or prison." Mrs. Davis approached her daughter. "Daughter, accept. Please. Accept and learn your lesson." "Lesson? What lesson, Mom? That old people always win? That I have to put up with humiliation?" "No," I answered. "The lesson is that respect isn't begged for. It's demanded, and I've had enough." Chloe looked at me with a hatred so pure I could feel its weight. But it didn't scare me anymore. Because the hatred of someone who is wrong has no power. "I accept," she said through clenched teeth. "But only because I have no choice." "Good," Ethan said. "We're going to sign a document right now, with witnesses. And if you don't comply with the terms, the criminal charges will be filed automatically." He took the documents out of his briefcase. Chloe signed them with a trembling hand. Mrs. Davis and Ethan signed as witnesses. When she was done, Chloe stood up and walked to her room without a word. I was left with Michael. And me? Mom? What's going to happen to me? I looked at him. My son, the boy I raised alone, the one I fed by selling tamales, the one I dressed in secondhand clothes while I wore broken shoes. You have to decide, Michael. Either you support your mother and acknowledge that allowing all of this was wrong, or you go with her. But, Mom, no buts. I gave you life. I gave you everything I had. The least I deserve is respect. And if you can't give me that, then you have no place in my house. He was silent for a long time. Then he spoke in a broken voice. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm truly sorry. I was a coward. I should have defended you. I should have seen what was happening. But I was so blind, so what? So comfortable? Living here without paying for anything. Saving money. It was easy to ignore your suffering because it was convenient for me. For the first time in all of this, I saw real remorse in his eyes. I'm going to fix it, Mom. I don't know how, but I'm going to fix it. Good. Start by going to therapy, you and me, together, to heal this. Will you give me that chance? You're my son. You'll always have chances, but the boundaries are no longer negotiable. He nodded. He stood up. He hugged me. And for the first time in years, I felt like I was hugging my real son, not the manipulated version Chloe had created. When everyone left, I was alone in the living room. Mrs. Davis said goodbye with a strong hug. Thank you for showing me the truth, Mrs. Eleanor. And forgive me for my daughter. You don't have to apologize for her. Everyone is responsible for their own actions. Ethan was the last to leave. You did it perfectly, Mrs. Eleanor. Thanks to you, son. I couldn't have done it alone. Yes, you could have. You just needed the right tools. You always had the courage. When I closed the door, I stood in the center of my living room, my house, my home. And for the first time in 2.5 years, I breathed easily because I had won. Not just the legal battle, but something more important, my dignity. The month that followed was strange. Like living in an inverted reality, Chloe fulfilled her part of the agreement because she had no choice, but she did it with contained rage, with every movement loaded with resentment. The first morning, I got up early, as always. I made coffee. I sat at the kitchen table, and I waited. At 7, Chloe appeared. She was no longer wearing her silk robe. She was wearing old sweatpants and a tank top. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. No makeup. She looked like what she really was without all her artifices. An ordinary woman. No better or worse than me. Good morning, I said. She didn't reply. She just opened the refrigerator. Breakfast is made at 7:30, for when Michael leaves for work. Eggs, toast, and coffee. That's how he likes it. She looked at me with hard eyes. I don't know how to cook that. Then you'll learn. I learned on my own. You can too. I showed her where the ingredients were. I explained step by step how to make the scrambled eggs, how to heat the toast, how to make the coffee without it being too weak. She followed the instructions with clumsy movements. She burned the first 3 pieces of toast. The eggs were runny. The coffee was weak. But I said nothing. I just watched. Michael came out at 8. He looked at the breakfast in surprise. He looked at Chloe. Then he looked at me. Chloe cooked? That's right. And you? I supervised. He sat down. He tasted the eggs. He didn't say anything, but I saw on his face that they weren't like mine. Still, he ate it all. He gave Chloe a kiss on the cheek. Thanks for breakfast. She didn't answer. She just nodded with a tense jaw. When Michael left, Chloe left the dirty dishes in the sink and walked toward her room. The dishes are washed immediately after eating, I said without raising my voice. She stopped. She turned slowly. Excuse me? The dishes. They're washed now. They're not left to pile up. I'm not your maid. No, you're my tenant. And in this house, whoever uses the dishes washes them. That's how it's always been. We stared at each other. It was like a silent duel. But this time, I didn't look away first. She went back to the sink. She turned on the faucet with more force than necessary. She started washing the dishes with rough movements. Water splashed. The soap stained her shirt. And I sat there, drinking my coffee, watching as for the first time in her life, Chloe did something she didn't want to do. The following days followed the same pattern. I assigned her tasks: clean the living room, mop the floors, scrub the bathroom, do the laundry by hand, the delicate items, just as she always asked me to do with her clothes. She obeyed. But with each task, her resentment grew. One afternoon, while she was mopping the kitchen floor, I went over and checked her work. "You missed a spot here. And over there too. You have to move the mop under the furniture, not just around it." She gripped the mop handle so tightly her knuckles turned white. "Why are you doing this? You've already won. You've humiliated me. What more do you want? I want you to understand." "Understand what? What it feels like." What feels like? To work without anyone thanking you. To do things for others and only receive criticism in return. To feel invisible in your own home. She dropped the mop. "I never made you feel invisible, didn't you? Then tell me, Chloe, how many times did you thank me in 2.5 years? How many times did you ask me how I was? How many times did you see me as anything more than an obstacle?" Silence. That's what I thought. She picked up the mop. She finished cleaning without another word. But I saw something in her eyes. It wasn't remorse yet, but maybe it was the beginning of something. A crack in her armor of indifference. In the second week, Chloe brought the first payment. $850 in cash. She left it on the kitchen table without looking at me. "Here's the rent." "Thank you." "And the $62,000? I already signed the promissory note. I'm going to pay $5,000 a month. It's going to take me a year, but I'll pay it. Good." I took the rent money and put it in my purse. She just stood there, as if she wanted to say something but didn't know how. "What is it?" I asked. "Nothing. Just. Why didn't you report me? You could have put me in jail." I looked at her. I really looked at her. And I saw something I hadn't seen before. Fear, yes, but also confusion. As if she didn't understand why someone she had hurt could show her mercy. "Because I'm not like you, Chloe. I don't enjoy the suffering of others. But I also won't let anyone walk all over me. So what am I to you? An experiment? A lesson? You're someone who needs to learn that actions have consequences and that respect isn't optional. It's fundamental." She looked down. "My mom isn't speaking to me. She says I disappointed her." "And did you disappoint her?" A long silence. "Yes, I guess I did." It was the first time she had admitted anything. The first real crack in her facade. By the third week, something had changed. Chloe was still doing the chores, but not with so much anger. Her movements were less rough. She wasn't breaking things accidentally anymore. She wasn't leaving jobs half-finished hoping I would finish them. One morning, she made breakfast without being asked. The eggs still weren't perfect, but they weren't raw anymore. The toast wasn't burnt. "Good job," I said. She looked at me, surprised, as if she didn't expect a compliment. "Thanks." Michael was changing too. He started therapy as I had asked. We went together once a week. It was awkward at first. There was so much to say, so much accumulated pain. But little by little, we began to heal. One night, after dinner, Michael stayed with me in the kitchen while I washed the dishes. Chloe had already gone to bed. "Mom, I need to tell you something." "Tell me, son." "I'm going to separate from Chloe." I stopped washing. I turned to look at him. "Are you sure?" "Yes." The therapist helped me see a lot of things. And one of them is that Chloe and I are not good together. She convinced me to do things that go against my values, to ignore the person who loves me most in the world. My mom. His voice broke. "I can't stay married to someone who doesn't respect my mother. And I can't keep being the kind of son I was. That has to change." I hugged him. He clung to me like he did when he was a child. "Do you forgive me, Mom?" "I already forgave you, son. Now you have to forgive yourself." "I'm going to stay here for a while, if you'll let me. To help you. To make up for lost time. There will always be room for you in this house. It's your home, but with boundaries. Like you said." "With boundaries?" he confirmed. The last week arrived faster than expected. Chloe had already packed her things. 2 suitcases, the same ones she arrived with 2.5 years ago. On the last day, a Sunday morning, she came out of her room. It wasn't my room anymore. It never really was. She found me in the kitchen drinking coffee. Eleanor. Yes? I want to tell you something before I go. She sat across from me. For the first time, her eyes held no harshness. They held something else. Shame? Remorse? I'm sorry for everything I did. I really am. I'm not justifying any of it. But I want you to know that this month taught me more than I've learned in my entire life. What did it teach you? That honest work has dignity. That older people deserve respect, not pity or condescension. And that you are much stronger than I ever thought. She took a breath. My mom was right. I became someone she doesn't recognize. Someone I don't recognize either. And that has to change. And is it going to change? I don't know, but I'm going to try. I'm going to move back in with my mom. I'm going to find a job. A real job. Not just teaching yoga to rich ladies. And I'm going to pay you back every penny I owe you. Even if it takes me years. I believed her. Maybe I was naive. Maybe she was just saying what she thought I wanted to hear. But there was something different in her voice. Something authentic. I wish you luck, Chloe. I really do. Do you forgive me? I thought about that question. Did I forgive her? Could I forgive all the pain she caused me? Forgiveness isn't something that's given overnight. But I'll tell you this. I no longer hold a grudge against you. And I hope you find your way. One that doesn't walk over other people. She nodded. She stood up, extended her hand. I took it. It was a brief handshake, but it meant something. An hour later, a cab arrived for her. Mrs. Davis came too. She hugged her daughter with tears in her eyes. Let's go home, sweetie, and let's start over. Chloe got into the cab. Before closing the door, she looked at me one last time. Thank you, Eleanor, for not destroying me, for giving me a lesson instead of a punishment. Take care, dear, and remember, true wealth isn't in what you own, but in what you don't let them take from you. The cab drove away, and with it went the darkest chapter of my life. I stood in the doorway. Michael came out and stood beside me. How do you feel, Mom? Free. For the first time in years, I feel free. You did it. You got your house back. Not just my house. I got back my dignity, my voice, my strength. He hugged me. I promise I'm going to be a better son. That I'll never again let anyone disrespect you. And that I'll cherish every day I have with you. That's all I ask, son. We went inside the house. Our house. I made coffee. We sat in the living room. And for the first time in a long time, we talked. Really talked. Without masks. Without lies. We talked about Arthur, about the old days, about the tamales, about building the house, about dreams and plans. And I realized something. I had won more than a legal battle. I had learned a lesson for myself. That it's never too late to stand up for yourself. That self-love isn't selfish. That setting boundaries doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you a wise person. And that a woman who builds her house with her own hands also has the strength to defend it. That night, I slept in my small room. I still hadn't moved back into the big bedroom. Maybe I never would, because that small room had become my fortress, the place where I was reborn. And as I closed my eyes, I thought of all the women who are going through the same thing, who are being made invisible in their own homes, who are being manipulated, used, discarded. And I wanted to tell them something. You are not alone. You have more strength than you think. You deserve respect. You deserve dignity. And that it's never, ever too late to say, enough, because I said it. At 67 years old, after almost dying, after hitting rock bottom, I said it, and it changed everything. Epilogue. 6 months have passed since that day. Michael is still living with me, but now he pays rent, he insisted. It's only fair, Mom. I'm an adult. I should contribute. He also helps with the housework. We cook together on Sundays. We watch old movies. We talk about Arthur without crying. He's dating someone new, a woman different from Chloe. A woman who greets me with respect, who asks how I'm doing, who brings flowers for the house. I told Michael, "Now this is a good woman. But if she ever changes, promise me you won't let yourself be blinded." "I promise, Mom." Chloe kept her word. Every month, a deposit of $5,000 arrives. We're already at $30,000 paid. There's still a ways to go, but she'll do it. Mrs. Davis calls me every week. She tells me Chloe got a job in an office. Nothing glamorous, but it's honest work. And that little by little, they're rebuilding their relationship. I'm happy for them. Carol is still my confidante, my sister for life. We have lunch together on Thursdays. She tells me I'm glowing, that I look years younger. It's because I'm not carrying the weight of the world anymore, Carol. I learned to let go. Ethan has become a close friend. He comes for dinner once a month. I make him a pot roast. He eats it all and asks for more. Nobody cooks like you, Mrs. Eleanor. My house is still mine. The deed is in a safe deposit box at the bank. I wrote a new will, clearer, more protected. And I'm still here, in the house I built, in the life I reclaimed. Some nights I sit in the backyard, under the stars, and I talk to Arthur. I did it, my love. I defended what was ours. I defended our house, and I defended my dignity. And I feel him answer me. In the wind that rustles the leaves of the lemon tree, in the scent of the flowers I planted, in the peace that now fills every corner. Because this story isn't just mine. It's for all the women who have ever felt invisible, who swallowed their words, who lowered their heads. It's to tell them, stand up. It's not too late. It's never too late. Because true wealth isn't in what you possess. It's in what you don't allow to be taken from you. Your home, your dignity, your voice, your right to exist without apology. If this story touched something in your heart, if you felt the injustice, the rage, the hope, or the victory along with me, leave me a comment telling me where you're listening from, and if you've ever had to set boundaries in your own life. Give this video a like so that more people can hear this story. And subscribe to the channel to continue joining us for more stories of life, of struggle, of dignity reclaimed. Because we all deserve a home, and we all deserve respect. See you in the next story. And remember, it's never too late to defend what's yours. The end.